Someone asked the question yesterday on the video I made on single versus married life. Am I into polygamy? And talking about being single and the black woman finding a suitable lifetime partner, the notion has been presented by a lot of black men, significant portion of number of black men, who suppose that polygamy somehow is the answer to singlehood for black women who are having a difficult time finding a life partner, a suitable life partner, shall I say. And I have to say that has to be the most insidious, ignorant supposition that a person could ever make. Somehow there is this belief that there are a shortage of black men in proportion to single black women, right? And that a lot of black men are either incarcerated or just simply unfit or taken. And I wouldn't go so far to say that. However, I will say that I think it's a case-by-case scenario. Every woman is different, right? So one can't assume that what is good for one woman is good for all women, right? I have a certain type of preference. There are other women, I have a certain type of preference. There are other women who may have a totally different type of preference of a man. And that preference is going to factor in the likelihood that they will find a suitable partner within a given specified period of time, right? I'm 38 years old, and I think when one looks at, okay, the age of a woman, right, and how long she's been single, and or if she's single or if she's partner, they assume that a person has been single like all their life. Like, oh, you've been single all your life. I mean, I guess by legal definition, right, to be single is to be unmarried. So I've never been married, facts, but I have been in a relationship partner. I have been actually in a significant relationship for more than half of my adult life, right? And I actually think I made a whole separate video on that where I actually was seriously dating 3 different guys over half of my adult life, whom of which I actually lived with, right? I shared living space with. They took care of me like it was a serious, committed, long-term relationship, right? The first being, I think, 2 years, the second being 5 years, and the third being 3 years. Do the math, right? That's like 10 years. Again, shall I say, over half of my adult life, I've been in a serious long-term relationship, right? There comes a point, as I think a woman ages, and I can speak for myself, feel free to chime in, ladies and guys, if you may, that you do have a certain type of preference, and you realize that it's not all about fucking and getting your rocks off, right, and getting an orgasm, though that's important, but there are more significant factors that factor into one's mate selection than, oh, does he have a big dick, right, or does he look good? You know, for me, I've stated this, I think, before in many videos, and especially in the video that I made yesterday on single versus married life, that, yes, of course, I have a preference for a man who is conscious, politically conscious, right? Who is psychologically sound, who is well-grounded, who knows who he is, who's very self-aware. It's a very specific type of man, right? Notice I didn't begin with, oh, he has to look a certain way. Though physical attraction, I think, goes without saying. So someone posed a question on my most recent video, single life versus married life. Am I into polygamy? Now, I do have my breakfast. Take a little pause for a second. actually talked about this before. Damn, this egg is fucking good as shit. It makes me think about a message that I just received, which is not an uncommon message. I've received this message before on, oh, you're so beautiful. I'm surprised that you're single. Oh my gosh. What are you doing on this dating app? I'm like, it's a dating app. It's a dating app, right? We live in the fucking 21st century. This is one of the ways how people find partners, right? Not the only way. And of course, I've dated men that I've met in person, in real life, who've approached me. I don't pursue men, men pursue me. That's just, I'm very old school and very traditional in my approach to dating. And yeah, I've dated men. Actually, I've made videos on this where I've dated men who I've met here in New York and in LA and other places that I've lived in person, right? So it's not that, oh, there aren't available men, black men out. There are a lot of available black men now. It's not a question as to, oh, there's a small selection of single black men in relation to single black women. There are probably equal number, if not more, single black men that are available. They're out there roaming the streets looking for their love, their lifetime love partner. They exist, right? It's just about selection and what I feel like I'm attracted to, right? And especially, I like alpha men. Now, of course, there has been a movement. There has been a shift in how black men are made in our society, right? Black men today aren't made like black men were made back in the day. They're just different. They're a different breed. I like my man alpha. I like my man knowing, first of all, what it means to be a man. It doesn't have to be taught by a woman. You know. It comes natural for you, right? You are a leader. You take initiative. If a man knows how to exemplify this role, right, to take on his role in a relationship with a woman, that's going to reflect upon how he relates in the world. What position is he in society? Okay, so when I talk about like an alpha man, the alpha isn't just representative in the bedroom or interpersonally in intimate relationships with a woman, but no, alpha men are alpha all the way around wherever they go, in all of their relationships, in society at large, right? And sometimes people can get it confused to assume that just because a man has a high position, right, or he has a lot of influential power, because that's actually, I think, a descriptor of what it means to be alpha, right? These are people of influence who have power. We get it misconstrued. We assume that, okay, if a person has social media influence, for example, right, which a lot of people have somehow got lucky and amassed the ability to be able to gain a significant number of followers, therefore influence over a significant number of people. We think that this person is alpha or this person is a leader. And by default, yes, they are leaders because they have so many people holding on to every word that they say. They have influence, influential power. But does that really make them alpha? Right? And I can think of a lot of people like that. Now, I'm not going to name specific names right here. But I must say that I'm thinking of a few examples of men who hold that position in the black community, but no, they're not alpha. Alpha, first of all, you gotta be able to take care of yourself and anything that you produce, right? That's what it means to be a man. And it's funny because we have this term alpha, and I think it's emphasized more now in this era that we live in compared to back in the day. Not to say the word alpha didn't exist back in the 40s, but it was like either your ass a man or you ain't. Now there are different layers of what it means to be a man, right? This like stratified manhood, okay? You got men who are supposedly beta men, heterosexual, but they're not alpha, right? They believe in egalitarianism, the 50-50 whole notion. You know, you have men who are metrosexual, right? So they don't necessarily identify as gay, but they may have some tendencies along those lines of consistent with homosexuality, right? Or homosexual men. But they're not outwardly proclaiming that they are gay. Metrosexual, though. You have men who are just outright gay. You have trans men. You have trans women, right? You just have bisexual men. You have down low men. You have so many different variations of men that exist. And then you have the so-called alpha, the self-proclaimed alphas. Well, they're really not alpha, but they're alpha because of, by default, of having a lot of influential social media power, right? Which anything that happens on social media obviously extends into the real world, right? It is real world, right? And yet still they may have children that they don't take care of, right? They have mothers of those children that they help create that they do not take care of. They don't see that as a responsibility. If anything, they assume that their only responsibility, their only obligation is to the child that they help produce. And it's just like, are you kidding me? So this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a shift. And so when a man like the one who just sent me a message today on this dating app is saying, oh, you're beautiful. Oh my gosh, I can't believe you're single. Why are you single? Like that's how I weed guys out. If you ask me a question, and especially it's explicitly stated on my profile that I'm Pan-African, right? That should give you a flavor of the type of woman that I am. But maybe you're not in tune, right? Maybe you are remiss of the idea of to be educated enough to know what it means to be a Pan-African, true Pan-African, and to hold certain ideologies that not only you believe in, but you live by. This is not a fucking game. But to even pose that question lets me know that they are unaware. They are, you're blindsided to the reality of, first of all, our society at large. To even ask such a question, right? That's like, it's good. I think it's good for conversation purposes, right? It's good for, if you just want to fill in the quiet space of silence and to just have a fucking conversation. But I'm not really into having conversations that really don't need to be had, right? I feel like if it goes without saying, why are we even having this conversation? For what? It's redundant. It's repetitive. The same can be reversed and flipped back. Why are you single, right? And everyone has their own excuse for why they're single, or reason for why they're single, but I have to say that I think a common sense answer is you haven't found the right person, right? So I think a better question would be, okay, what is the type of person that you are attracted to? But even asking that, I don't answer those kind of questions, right? Because then men try to become that person, which they aren't, right? So I go off of introductions. Just introduce yourself, first of all. If you come to me and you don't introduce yourself properly, like, I'm not going to entertain you. I don't entertain the Hey Beautifuls, right? I get so many of those. I've started a collection of the Hey Beautifuls. That does not move me, right? I can take a compliment and I know that I am beautiful, right? I know that I'm attractive. But that's not a conversation starter. A conversation starter would just simply just be jump right on in, right? Express what you're looking for. Express what attracted you to me. People want to go by the physical, yes, but it's more than just pictures on my profile. I just find it interesting. I wanted to share that piece with you guys because it's definitely related. And talking about polygamy, first of all, we got to define what is polygamy. A lot of people got that shit misconstrued. They got just a false understanding of what polygamy is. Polygamy is an arrangement. It's a very special type of marriage, okay? Polygamy. And there are two main types. There's polygyny, where there's a man and multiple women. And then there's polyandry, where there is a woman with multiple men in the context of a marriage, shall we emphasize, right? When people talk about poly life, or they ask, oh, are you into polygamy? What they're really asking is, are you into polyamory? Multiple sexual partners. And hell the fuck no, it's not, to me, it's not about sex. And that's the reason why I get turned off when discussing polygamy, because people are attracted to this type of dynamic of a relationship for the absolute wrong reasons. To each his own, right? If you want to have multiple sexual partners, then okay, do you. But no, if I am attracted to polygamy, it's not going to be for the purpose of sex. Sex is a part of it, but there's a bigger picture. And people, what I notice, are very vain. Very vain. Another example, right? I was talking to the guy that I was telling you guys about yesterday in my video on single life versus married life, and I it's clear when men run out of things to say. They're just like, I don't know where to begin. Well, you aren't the man for me, right? Like, this is just how it is. Like, you have to be very astute. You have to know, like, okay, if you have a woman's attention, know what to do with it. Know what to say. That I don't know what to do. You get my attention, but you don't know what to do with it. You're wasting my time, right? You're not mature. Therein lies the reason why I am not into younger men. And then those younger men always get this, oh, age is nothing but a number. No. Factored into age is maturity level, for the most part. A lot of men aren't there. Even men who are of my same age or a few years older than I am, they're just not there. They don't know what to do with a woman's attention. They don't. And they're afraid to take chances, right? The kind of man that I'm attracted to is not afraid to take chances, right? He is just himself. He is. Point blank, period. He is, right? And whatever becomes of that, right? These men are so afraid to take risks, even calculated risks, right? They're tiptoeing. Like, you can't build a solid foundation off of fear. I've dated this Puerto Rican, I think it was, we're in 2022, this was 2020, 2021. He was deathly afraid of my presence, right? Let alone interacting and socializing with me. And we were dating, we're getting to know each other. Like, we actually met in person. And dude was sweating. Dude was shivering. He was afraid. It's just like, I can't, You have to be confident in who you are as a person to interact with me. Point blank, period. I'm not of your caliber. This is a reason why women like myself choose to date up. There's a reason why we engage in hypergamy. And then you got men that say, oh no, you shouldn't do that, right? They want to talk about, oh, a high value man. And like, no, what about a high value woman? It's not about looking down at the opposite sex, right? That's not what this is about. I just got a notification that Sinetta is doing a debate, so I'm looking forward to that. But it's like, it's about what makes sense, right? It's about the proper fit. And that goes without saying for many different things in life. right. If it does, if the shoe don't fit, why are you sitting up here trying to try it on? Why are you even going in that department if that's not your style, if that's not even your degree of affordability? People be going into areas that is foreign to them, right? Maybe they aspire to be in this particular position in life, and so they put themselves in that position, but they're lost. They're looking around like, oh my gosh, what do I do? You're not ready. You're not there yet. Like, why waste a person's time? And when it comes to polygamy, yes, I have publicly stated that I would be open to polygyny and polyandry, right? Polyandry being the female-led form of polygamy, and polygyny being the male-led form of polygamy. But it's just about how is it done? What is the purpose? What is the drivers for why we are engaging in this type of lifestyle? Oh, I knew I was going back to that example of the discussion I had with the guy on the dating app, right, who I talked about in my most recent video yesterday, single life versus married life. And yeah, he was at a loss for words, not knowing what to talk about. And he was just asking me like random, unrelated, insignificant questions. Questions like, what do you like to do for fun? What's your favorite color? Yo, it's just like, I find that questions like that, it's just space fillers. And it's just like, oh, well, I don't think that every question has to be so deep. We don't have to always talk about Pan-Africanism. You're missing my point. It's not talking about deep-seated issues all the time. It's talking about things that are relevant. Don't ask me some random ass question. What is the basis of this? Like, what are you doing with this information? It's like, oh, I just want to know. I'm going to ask you some relevant shit, right? For example, I read profiles. If you put information on your profile, I take it to be true, right? So you're saying, okay, you have children. A good question I would just jump right into is, oh, how many children do you have? With that, why aren't you with the mother of your children? Real ass questions, right? Because we're talking about questions that determine whether or not we're going to continue this conversation. Relevant questions. We're on the getting to know phase, right? Asking me where in the world would I see myself living, right? Like outside of the U.S. I mean, yes, it could be a legitimate question, right? Because I challenged him. I was like, you asking questions that are like baseless. He was like, well, I really do want to know. Okay, you may really do want to know, but how is that important now in this moment of us getting to know each other? Because I think what they assume is that just because we are engaging in discourse that, oh, you got me, like we're in, right? We're locked in. No, no. This is a screening out phase. Your ass is being screened. They don't even know they're being screened out. Yo, you are being tested to see if I should even continue talking to you or not. So you should be putting your best foot forward, right? This is your time to show yourself, to say this is the reason why you should continue talking to me. I always put my best representative on, right? And my authentic self on. And sometimes they can't handle it because I'm just too real. Like, I'm just, like, come on. We don't have time to sit up here and play games. We are adults here. If I don't like something you said, if I don't like you, if I don't think this is going anywhere, I'm going to let you know that, point blank, period. It's not about, oh my gosh, this is too much. Who hurt you? Like, that would be like their retort. Like, oh my gosh, what man hurt you? It's not about past experiences with men. It's about the present moment and you not wasting my goddamn time. Okay? What the hell are we doing? Now, there are times when the conversation flows. It's real, and he saw that, right? We're talking about things that we both relate to. For example, Pan-Africanism, what's happening in the black community. We're talking about things that we both can just add our perspectives on and share our perspectives, whether they are the same or different. and the conversation was flowing. I mean, we was going back and forth for a good, like, I don't know, lost track of time. It was just going. This is just text, right? We're not even having a phone conversation, which is another pet peeve. It's like, yes, texting is cool, right? And this is texting on the dating app. But at some point, does it ever dawn on you that this is not proper or optimum communication? To say, okay, let's move this conversation offline. And can I have your number? For me, it's all about formalities, y'all. I'm a woman of formalities. Like I said, I'm a traditional old school woman. It's how I pay close attention to how men do things, y'all. It's the subtleties, right? Don't give me your number like, here's my number. Because I'm not calling you. And I've said that to guys. I'm not calling your number. And they're like, oh my gosh, why? I thought we were just vibing. You went about things the wrong way. I don't feel like I need to teach you how to be a man, the formality of the nuances of interacting with a woman. You ask for the woman's number. Can I have your number? Please. Sure, here's my number. Don't give me your number and say, all right, here's my number. Hit me up. That's the kind of shit they be like, hit me up, here's my number. I'm not hitting you up. I'm not calling you. The fuck? So many of conversations with potential black men, right? Suitable black men, they just go awry because of those nuanced interactions, right? I get turned off. And person say I'm picky, I don't care. I'm just very observant and I'm protective over my space. And when I do weed these guys out, right, when I come across these things that they do, right, and I end up just weeding their ass out and discontinuing conversation, I can see why. It's like, okay, I made the right decision, right, based on what follows from that. Because oftentimes they go off and call me out my name and this and that, and like you can just see like what's going on, right? And it's a test for them. They don't even know that they're being tested. But I do that a lot. I test men. It's not that I give them a extremely difficult test, but if they are authentic and they have proper manners, they've been raised well, that's an easy test. They got common sense. There are men who have it. There are men who don't. They're just men who know how to relate to women, and there are men who just don't, they don't come from that culture of respecting women and knowing what to say to a woman, how to say it, how to relate. They just don't. I have no interest in investing in a conversation with a man like that. I can't even pretend to have interest in a man. I don't care how fine your ass is. I don't care if you have your own space in New York City. You can own your own house, condo. I've come across men like that. But like it's the nuances, right? If it's just like little subtle things like that turn me off, I'm turned off. I don't care what you bring to the table. And that's another thing, right? And tying into the conversation on polygamy, a lot of men who approach polygamy, I feel like, just approach it from a wrong angle that I'm not too enthused by, because they, number one, are hypersexual with their approach. It's really, for them, the motivation is about sex, having multiple sexual partners. If you want to do that, listen, there's no judgment zone here, right? If that's your forte, that's what you want to do that. I'm all about alternative sexual lifestyle and relationships anyway. So if you are seeking to have 5, 10 different women, a different woman for each day of the week to have sex with, then let it be. Just do it. Do you. You're an adult. But that's not what I'm into. It's not about sex. It has to be a more important, more substantial driving force for why you are pulled in this direction of polygamy. And how I see it, it should be about nation building. It's about tribal building, community. Anything outside of that, I'm not interested, right? Of course, sex is going to be had, but that goes without saying. You don't have to lead with that conversation, right? And oftentimes, that's what I see, right? Because that question, like I said, is not the first time this question has been posed to me. It's been posed to me in many different areas, right? On dating platforms. There's guys that's, oh, are you into polygamy? Would you be open to it? Yes. And they get all riled up with it, right? I get it, right? Dick probably getting all hard and everything. And I have to slow them down. Nah, bro, in that type of party. Because your focus is wrong. Your focus is off. You're lacking maturity. Now, as I talk about polygamy, I am thinking about a few examples, real life examples of men who actually are doing polygamy the correct way. And I will name names. And speaking about something positive that I see within the black community. Now, it's not to put these guys on a pedestal and say that they're perfect beings and they do everything right. Definitely not what I'm trying to say. But as it relates to polygamy and the purpose behind it, their purpose-driven polygamy is to build a nation, to build a tribe. I like that. And who comes to mind? Brother Polite. He has multiple wives and he takes care of them. Key thing, he takes care of them. And Nature Boy. He used to go by the name of Nature Boy, but now I think he goes by the name of Three God. But his legal name is Eligio Bishop, the head of Carbon Nation tribe. And he's living the talk, right? He has a belief. He has a certain set of ideologies, a belief system, and he's practicing it, right? He went out to live in the tropics. Now, to say, like I said, everything that he's doing is perfect, but it's his intentions, right? At least he is trying, right? To build a nation, to build a tribe that is detached from the system of white supremacy and the cancer cell of America, right? Though he's now back living in America, in Atlanta, Georgia, but I think it's temporary. I think his plan, his ultimate goal is to somehow get back to the tropics. The issue is that people keep reporting him to the authorities at these designated countries that he has settled in, and they end up kicking him out of the country, unfortunately, because his beliefs are considered to be extreme. But it's unfortunate. It's like I like that he is actually doing it, right? And he means well by the women around him. Now, his approach may appear to be aggressive, too dominant, but I think it's because we have, as a black community, right, have been conditioned to uphold the system of white supremacy, right? And if it's not a white man being in control, being dominant, then we look at like something is wrong. We're not used to a black man exerting his power, his sense of dominance, being head of household, being head of anything for that matter, truly standing in his masculinity. The closest thing that we had to that was what? Barack Obama, but we saw that he was being puppeteered around, right? And don't get me wrong, but Barack Obama, right? Barack Obama was a very good example of what it means or what it looks like for a black man to be head of his own household, of his own family, right? He married to a beautiful woman, has 2 beautiful girls, right? Doing the damn thing. But I think we're just not used to that level of energy force within a black man who is, number one, tired of the fucking system and shows it, right? Maybe Barack Obama has Pan-African beliefs. He's keeping to himself, right? Maybe he's tired of the bullshit as a black man. But you can't see it. You don't see that really on his face. He tries to appear a certain way, keep a certain level of decorum about himself, so that he is very well put together, right, and constrained in his expression. Whereas you have black men who are fed up and they show it, and I actually like that approach, right? They vocalize it, right? It manifests itself in many different ways, right? And we may see the anger, the hostility, and people are repulsed at it. You know, they take guard and they look at it as a questionable act. Like, Oh my gosh, you gotta be careful. Take caution. This guy is deranged. Something is wrong with him. When we forget the context, right, of where this aggression, hostility is coming from. And then also on top of that, for people to see this enactment unfold on social media, I'm talking about, for example, with Elijah Bishop and his tribe, and to also still continue to attack that person, right? Adding more fuel to the flame of racial oppression, right? And the hostility continues to grow because it's like gaslighting in a way, you know? And instead of siding with the man, considering that he's faced a long, hard life from birth, being born to two unfit parents, shall we say, who he didn't get a chance to be raised by because they end up dying. I think they were abusing crack, you know. It was just in a bad era that he grew up in the 80s, and he was raised in foster care. Like, to know the background of his story is not to say, okay, one should coddle him, but to have a degree of compassion and understanding. That's what is lacking. Could you imagine that the people who watch him, right, and so-called support him, because if you're watching a person, you're supporting them, right? Views count as support. You're helping this person's platform grow. Imagine if everyone who tuned into his lives actually was compassionate and supported and stood by. I'm talking about like this, right? As a unit, as a black community, holding together, fist in fist. Imagine that. Would there be a need for the behaviors that we see, right? Like the combativeness and the hostility. I think the hostility is growing, is multiplying, because there is such attack, right? Because there is so much gaslighting on this character who is just trying to survive as any other black man or black woman is trying to survive, who's trying to rise above all odds, who's already had a rough childhood life growing up, right? The odds were against him before he was even born, just like you and I, as a black person being born and raised in America. But it's almost as if we forget. And you can see how internalized racism is deeply rooted within the fibers of our being as black people. Yet we claim that we are pro-black. We claim that we want to unite, but we see anything less than that, right? Everything less than coming together. We are about like drama and entertainment and coonery and attacking and the crab in the barrel. We devote so much energy towards that, to tearing another person down as opposed to building them up. Not seeing that you play a role in the destruction of this one man who's just a reflection of the black community. That's how I see it. Like I say, I'm not saying that everything he's doing is right. I'm saying that we as a community who watch this person, right? We follow this person. You play a role in the manifestation of what the very thing that you are harping on and complaining about. You play a role in that dysfunction, right? You're basically doing the job of the enemy, of the white man, by attacking him, by wanting to see his destruction. Think about that, right? I don't think we really think deeply about our own actions and our approach and our belief system, right? So I think he is a good example because he has good intentions and he is trying. And when you go back and look at what he had going on when he first launched this tribe, right? And he first went out in nature. Like, yo, it's very solid, very disciplined, right? It's people attacking him, I think, that's only triggering his demons. And yes, it's something that he has to take responsibility for. Nobody is going to fix it and take care of that but him. But it's triggering those demons that he has been fighting, which that's where you see like all of this anger, his hostility being manifested, right? And it's kind of disrupting the mission that he is on in such a way. because he is only one man. But I think in the end, good will prevail. So we'll just see how that situation goes. But I think it's just a prime example as we talk about polygamy. Yeah, he's doing it right, and he has a good vision, right? And the idea, okay, yes, he expects people to contribute, to bring, but I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So if we think about polygamy and how it should manifest, yeah, a man could take care of his wives, I think, as Brother Polite is doing, right? And not really expecting any financial contribution to the table of their well-being and their survival. But at the same time, it could also look where we're all contributing. We come together. I'm for that too. I'm for anything that advances the quality of life and the trajectory for the black community, yo. You know, no matter what kind of level it's on. If it's on a micro level in terms of building a tribe, a family, or on a community level, right? Like, I'm for it. You know, we coming together, pooling our resources together, right? There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, that's what the hell we should be doing. It's about the outcome, right? And so going back to what I was saying about the conversation I had with this guy, and he's like, oh, does everything have to be deep? Yes, everything has to be purposeful. It ain't got to be that deep, but what purpose does the question serve? Just popping up, asking random questions because that's how you've been conditioned, right? You can tell, like, it's just a lot of reflexive questions. Questions that are the typical getting to know, like, very regurgitated and generic questions. I'm not into the generic question and answer shit. The 21 questions. Just like, okay, we do that, then what, right? You don't really know anything about a person. I think the better way is to have conversation and eventually at some point take it from online to offline where we're talking on the phone and eventually in person. That's how you get to know somebody. All these goddamn questions and shit. I'm talking about random, yo, it don't get no random then, oh, well, what country you want to visit, and oh, what theme would you like your wedding? Why is that even important? We just getting to know each other. To ask a person what theme they want their wedding to be, it's like, this is a question this motherfucker asked me. What the hell that got to do with the present moment now? We ain't even gonna make it. How do we know we're gonna make it to that point? We ain't even there yet. If we planning a wedding, then you can ask, okay, what theme, right? What the fuck they got to do with now? To me, it just sounds like asking these fairy tale ass questions. What color would you like the color of your walls in your house when you buy your first house? I just think that a lot of times these types of conversations, what I'm talking about, it serves a purpose in the moment for that person, right? Like, I guess it's some type of release they get, like some dopamine rush, just the ability to have like a conversation and to get attention in the moment, right? But no, shit gotta be purposeful for me, you know. And I think some men get it, they get it, and we are able to build on that and move forward. But in terms of me being involved in a polygamous relationship, I have to first of all see that me and the guy, the man, right? If we're talking about polygyny, yo, he gotta, of course, have his shit together, and there has to be a genuine, sustained connection between himself and me. Before we talk about bringing in other women, like, what? I feel like this is the thing. A lot of men are driven by the wrong thing. Some are driven by ego. They just want to create a scenario, an image for themselves that makes them appear to be powerful and makes them feel good about themselves, right? Having more than one woman, right? It's like a trophy for them. But what is it doing for me? Because sometimes it comes at the detriment or the expense of the woman or the women involved, right? The fuck is it doing for me? Is it making me look good? Like, are we one solid unit where we all look good in this manner? You know, coming together in a polygamous relationship? Or am I being made to be looked like as a goddamn fool? You know? That part. In terms of polyandry, I'm even open to that. I've discussed that. And I remember when I first made a video about polyandry, there were people who were contesting the idea in the comment section, like, oh, I don't see it happen. It's going to be difficult for you to find alpha men, number one, who will be open to this type of arrangement. And I'm just like, I don't think so. First of all, I think anything is possible. And I've come across men who are with the shit. Like, they're open to it and they get it. Like, once it's explained, right? Because I think, like I said, on the surface, when we talk about polygamy, initially people think sex. And they somehow think orgy and threesomes. Like, okay, you got more than one person, more than two people engaging in this interaction. And then they're having sex, right? And so if there's two men and one woman, then, damn, two men, one woman, like, these men gotta be gay, right? To even be exposing themselves unclothed, you know, in front of each other, engaging in intercourse. Even if it is with the woman, it's still just like too close for comfort, right? So that's the go-to, right? That's how people think when they hear polyandry or polygamy involving one woman and multiple men. But no, I think it requires an open mind for us to even be having these discussions, to not make assumptions and to be hesitant, right? Be hesitant and be more open to exploring. Be hesitant to making assumptions and be more open to weighing out many different possibilities of how such of an arrangement can be made. What is going to look like what really is involved in that, what's the purpose of it, right? And then the people that say they want, like, you got men that all want more than one wife, but then you ask why, they can't even give you a good reason why, because they don't even know themselves, let alone know the driving force, the motivation for why they are being pulled in that direction. They just want it because I want it because everybody else got it. It's a popular thing now. It's on TV. So, yeah, it requires a person who is self-aware and who has put some thought into it for me to even go in that direction. I'm not opposed to the idea. I'm very open-minded, yo. And I think about, and I have to go on and say this before I close this video. I think about Dr. Umar Johnson. How he has a desire for a polygamous relationship. He wants two wives. My thing is, if you have not demonstrated your ability to maintain and sustain a relationship with one woman, healthy, shall I say, also, the fuck make you gonna think you're gonna be able to handle two? Like, I don't think people understand how sophisticated, how nuanced, how complex relationships can be. People don't get it. Relationships are easy. Okay? We're talking about two different people coming and merging their different worlds together in one world, one new world, right? Coexisting. And that's just two. Let alone you talking about adding up multiple people in polygamy. Try being with one woman first and then adding on new, right? But you want to start from scratch with two new women thinking that somehow it's going to work out. No. And I think for him, it's more of a dictator type of relationship, right? It's self-serving to him, right? He's not concerned about how he can help meet their needs. It's all about these women coming in to work for him and the FDMG, which I like that idea, right? He was like, okay, one wife is going to be over this school, another wife is going to be over there. I like that, right? And then they, I guess, going to have their own. I mean, what is that really just a business relationship arrangement? Because it sounds more like business than it is personal or a romantic, you know. And you don't need polygamy to do that, right? All he needs is, I mean, he already got that, really. He got women that support him and that's willing to ride for him and manage, you know, one school and another woman manage the other. Like, he got people already that's willing to do that. You don't need to be married to them to do that, necessarily. You do, I think, need a close relationship, because you don't just want anybody running your shit, running your school, you know. You gotta have somebody that you really know very well, very close with. But like I say, you don't have to be intimate with that person. Like, intimacy is something else. And I think that he's blurring the lines, which everybody know. The golden rule when it comes to business is you do not mix personal with business. So if you're talking about marrying, right? Marriage is a different thing. It's a different ballgame, man. Marriage can be very convoluted. We're talking about a legal arrangement. And it's assumed that part of that arrangement is going to be intimate, right? You're talking about marriage, bringing in two women, marrying them, and they are managing, right? Their administration over these schools. Think about that. What could go wrong, right? You can always explore different scenarios, right? How things can play out. I think it's important to do that. Explore what could go right, obviously. Yeah, there are a lot of things can go right. There are things can go wrong, too. So you, in protecting your vision in yourself as a man, have to see what the fuck could go wrong. Because if shit go wrong, which it does, yo. We're human beings. We come with baggage. We come with traumas. We come with emotions, right? We're live beings. And you have to understand that you can have this vision and you think you want to just dictate and tell people what to do, but that's not how interpersonal relationships go. You saw that with the goddamn stripper, right? That's not how it plays out. The vision you have in your mind. Unless you hiring a robot. Right? You gotta really take some time to groom this woman, to condition her, to shape her, to train her. And now we're talking about some BDSM shit right there. You know, seriously. And BDSM ain't just about sex. It's not really about sex, really. It's about a psychological dynamic that is being played out interpersonally. But there exists the propensity within people who are drawn, let's say, to BDSM, such as myself, who are with that, you know, are open to that, right? Are more malleable to the idea of being conditioned, being shaped, being trained, as long as it serves a purpose. Which I don't think I've really gotten to that aspect of myself as it relates to my BDSM. Because people, they don't get it. Like when I make videos about BDSM, like I said, they just think sex. They just don't get it. But it goes deeper than that. So yeah, that might be my next video, right? Like the psychological underpinnings of submission. I've kind of talked about it in some aspects, right? But the aspect of interpersonally, like how does that manifest, right? Because there's a two-way street happening, and there are people involved in this dynamic, and there are roles that are being acted out. There's a role of the dom, there's a role of the submissive person, right? And a big part of the dom's role is really to help mold that submissive. That's something that really is not talked about. What does that molding look like? What does the training look like? It's a conversation that can be held for mature people, mature audiences, because a lot of y'all just ain't ready for that. Not ready for that, but it's definitely possible. And with that, when you think about it, it's not something that's far-fetched from what's happening anyway in organizations, and Fortune 500 companies, right? People go through training, and people even go through hazing, right? But it serves a purpose. The end goal is to meet a mission, right? And the purpose of training, because people don't come in ready-made. to just fit the vision and to do what's expected of them. No, you have to condition their minds, right? You see this with the military. They go through extensive, brutal training in the military for those specialized roles, those jobs they have to fulfill, right? It's not that cut and dry. And so, likewise, when he's talking about bringing in women, marrying women, right? They're going to be a part of his intimate life. Intimate meaning like, okay, you're married to these women. That means you live together. You live with a person, you share very, like, that's close. You don't get no closer than living with a person, right? Smelling they shit, you know what I'm saying? You sleep in the same bed with them. You all up in, like, their personal realm. It's very sacred. My place where I live, I deem is very sacred. I don't let nobody in my shit, right? Because, I don't need nobody snooping around, right? And so, given that a man does get to the point of being able to become in my shit, like, we like this, right? Which I said, nobody, literally nobody is at that point, right? I do have a best friend, but he lives in a different state. So I was like, yeah, I do have people that I do trust to that extent, but yeah, like, he's not here. But I'm saying to say that, like, you gotta be very careful when it comes to who you let in your. She's talking about marriage, so I think that's why it's taking so long for him. And then when you got priorities in life, he got so many other things that he's focused on. What time does he have to devote towards that? It takes time to build relationships with a person, getting to know. That's what I mean, like, one at a time. That's the reason why I said one at a time, because that shit takes time. You talking about bringing in two women, strangers, or are these people that you are familiar with, right? Which makes it maybe a little bit easier, but you don't know a person till you know them. You may think you know a woman that you've been meeting at your lectures and hanging out with and doing this and doing that, but you don't really know that person till you really know them. And it takes time to sit down with a person, to really discuss things with a person, and go through experiences. That's how you really get to know a person. You can talk all day, right? And a person can share themselves in a certain edited way with you. But it's when you go through shit, right? Those tests and trials and tribulations, that's how you really know a person. You know the fabric of a person, what they're really made of. And I would say to do that individually. One-on-one. Not two-on-one, but one-on-one. You get to know a person. Unless that's all you're doing, right? So, like, for example, Nature Boy, he don't work no 9 to 5. He's not self-employed necessarily. That's his whole life. His whole life is running his tribe. That is his business, right? And the time he devotes to spending with his women. So he has plenty of time to get to know these women and to shape them and mold them. And people are opposed to, I guess, his approach. And, he's very firm, very disciplined, right? Kind of very militant in his approach and how he shapes not only the women, but also the men. That takes time to do that. But it's happening, right? And you can see, they call it brainwashing, but these people who are under his tutelage, they have his mind. So, similar to that, yeah, that's something that's going to have to take place if Dr. Umar Johnson wants to see himself in a polygamous relationship, a marriage, and to fulfill his vision. His vision, yes, is magnificent, is grandiose, is big, but I don't think it's impossible. I think he can manifest. I think it can happen where everything he wants to do. And when you think about it, the FDMG Academy, the school that he purchased in Wilmington, Delaware, that's only a very small scale version of his vision. Like, his initial vision was actually to open a residential academy where these students live there. They did not go home at the end of the day to their toxic ass, dysfunctional ass families. They actually live at the school, on the campus, round the clock. And then around that, he had a vision to build up a community, right? With his own police station, a fire station, and grocery store, and a hospital, library, and everything. that is the vision. So when we're talking about the FDMG, the properties that he purchased in Delaware, that's very minute compared to the grand scheme of things. It can happen, but it takes time, and of course he gotta get money. He gotta take care of himself. So he's continuing to do these lectures, and that is a full-time job by itself, just going around the country talking to people, right, and flying here and there and all over the goddamn place. That is, I can imagine that's very exhausting. By the time you do that, what time do you have to really devote towards getting to know a person and building that intimate, sacred space where you can actually grow with this person? I don't have time for that shit. And he's going to continue to get older and older. You're not getting any younger. So he's going to have to take a step and to rework that, right? Now, he got all kind of women just coming at him. He's like, he had this thing where he was taking wifey resumes. And these women were sending him all their resumes and stuff like that. And I guess he went through them and didn't find a candidate. But it ain't going to happen that way, yo. It's hard enough for me on a dating site and reading messages and trying to sort through, okay, who's a good candidate? Because it don't come across well. And I probably have dismissed high fucking potential candidates, right? On these dating sites, just based on maybe their message did not come across well the way they constructed it in the text message on the dating site. And similar to that, like with Dr. Umar Johnson, if he's getting these wifey resumes, these emails, it don't come across well like that, right? That's just not how it goes. It's nothing can replace like that face-to-face interaction, because it's a different energy. Even video, right? Like when I first started working at the hospital where I work at now, I started there in December. And of course, I am working towards licensure as a psychologist. And so I'm part of that. I'm required to be supervised for 2 hours a week. And with that, I have 2 different supervisors, licensed psychologists who supervise me. One of which is a forensic psychologist. I was just talking about this yesterday. How I sat in on 2 court proceedings yesterday that she testified in. And because of the Omicron variant that emerged when I started there in December, my supervisor didn't feel comfortable meeting face to face, right? So we actually just started meeting face to face, 3 sessions ago. She's like a germaphobe, right? And we meet, we have been meeting virtually. And what I noticed is that our virtual meetings, like the energy is so much different than face to face. I mean, go figure, right? Goes without saying. But one has to reiterate, like, yo, it's different. It's so different. I can't even put it into words, right? I can, but politically I can't, right? It's different, right? And when people say they read energy, I think we all can read energy. We feel it's something like it's that unspoken understanding, perceptibility that you feel, you grasp when you're in front of a person. You can feel certain things about them that they can't even hide. You can't hide it with a smile on your face, right? Or words that you try to express to portray yourself to be one way. But that energy never lies. You feel that energy. You're reading that. You can feel that. You can feel when somebody has good intentions, or they lying, or they sneaking, or that shit communicates. The energy feel. And you read that, you pick up, you feel it, right? And so I say that, relating that back to the dating situation and communicating online. Just like, okay, a person can put a well-constructed fucking email together or text message together and portray themselves one way, but it undermines that face-to-face connection, that energy, that chemistry. You miss out on that. And I think that's why it's sometimes difficult for me to sustain these interactions, because I don't ever get to that point, yo. I weed these motherfuckers out so quick. We don't even get to the point of meeting face to face to even be able to pick up on a motherfucker's energy, because I can pick up on energy through fucking online interactions too, right? It's almost like it has to be the perfect timing. The universe, everything has to become perfectly aligned, yo. That's difficult. I encourage men, listen, be yourself. Don't try to sit up here and put on a facade for me. Because you can do all that work and it still not fucking work out. So, I've said a lot here in this video. Feel free to share your comments below. Yes, to answer the question, I'm open to polygamy, right? Shit gotta be done right. It gotta be purposeful with the right intentions. And I cannot be made out to look like a goddamn fool in the shit, As long as all of those are in place, then yeah, it's doable. Would I prefer polyandry, being female-led, or polygyny, male-led? That's a difficult ass question, because it would depend on who's involved, right? If I can get more than one man to commit to this type of arrangement where these men are like, serious, and they bring some shit to the table and we focus and we driven, hell yeah, that would be ideal, because it's like, listen, I get to have my cake and eat it too, Yes, I talked about, okay, ain't all about sex, but I honestly have to admit that something I fantasize about is having sex with more than one man at the same damn time, yo. Not like one in my ass or one in my motherfucking vagina, but shit, like, just imagine, that's just like heaven on earth, being pleased, right? Having more than one person at a time cater to you in a sensual way, and touching and sensual touching and kissing and caressing and all of that good stuff. Who wouldn't want that shit? The more the merrier. As long as they're doing it right, and I'm very sensitive to my needs, so hell, fuck yeah. But not just to do it just because we having sex. Nah, we have to have that spiritual connection and a purposeful engagement with each other. So on the other side of that would be the male led, right? If there's a man that can handle it, but I think, you got men, black men can barely fucking rise to the plate of being alpha male with one woman and handling his household in that respect. Let alone talking about you got more than one woman and you trying to manage that situation, right? Unless you recognize that, okay, a woman can, like myself, can bring something to that table. Because granted, I like alpha men, but I am myself alpha. I have to admit that, right? I have a dominant degree of energy. I do. And it manifests itself. And because clearly I'm smart, I have intellect, and I use that in every situation possible, to manipulate things in my favor. You goddamn right. That's common sense. So yeah, the man has to be like, he have to match my mojo. All right. And to know that if a woman, he brings a woman in, unless she's matching my mojo, like we all kind of equal in that respect, that's going to be an interesting dynamic, right? 3 alpha people. Because I had this conversation with this one person, and we were talking about these dynamics, and I said, I know I'm an alpha female, right? And he's like, how you know that? I was like, listen, when I'm in a room, like, it's just something that plays out, it's energy. I am the dominant one, even around other women, I just am. And he was like, well, how would you know that? Maybe those women weren't alpha. Maybe you're saying that now, but if you're around other alpha women, you wouldn't like it. You wouldn't like it, right? So he's trying to make the argument to say that my alphaness, or me asserting that I know I have alpha female energy, and will dominate a room full of other women. He's saying that perhaps that may not be necessarily completely true, because if let's say there was a scenario where there were alpha women there present, he's saying maybe I would leave. I wouldn't even be a part of that room anyway. I'm like, no, I wouldn't say I would leave. I just would. I think that if there's a situation, right, where there are other alpha women which, yes, of course, other alpha women like myself, like mirror to me, do exist, then I'm just will have respect for them. They will respect me. Like, alpha respects alpha, yo. It's not about trying to outdo each other. It's not even an intentional act. It's just nature. Like, it's just nature. Just like, look at the animal kingdom. It's not about, you know, trying to, it's just what happens. Things fall into place. Either your ass here or your ass is here. But wherever you at, you fall into place. Now, let's say you here and somebody else is here, then okay. It's not about, okay, trying to top this person and we're going to fight and do that. Nah. It's just respect. That's just what's going to happen. You're going to respect me. I'm going to respect you. Right? Because we are each other's reflection. But anyway, on that note, I will end this video. I do have something planned today, this afternoon. I'm going to be in Brooklyn. So I hope it's fun and exciting. We shall see. I may take you guys with me. But leave your comments below. This is a very interesting question that was posed. What do you guys think? Would you guys be open to polygamy? Guys and girls, shall I say. Catch you guys later.